Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Bloodborne no healing video walkthrough. We're about to be moving into an area of the game known as the Abandoned Workshop, and I'm going to be doing this for a few reasons. Firstly, once you've destroyed the blood-starved beast, if you go back to Uden Chapel, in here this door will be open, giving you access to the Upper Cathedral Ward. Beware though, there's a lot of pretty tricky enemies in this place, and it can be quite the dangerous zone, and it leads to an optional zone that's one of the more difficult ones in the game. However, we'll talk about that one much later. So the first thing to know here is there's going to be some of the huntsmen with guns. There's a huntsman right there, or a hunter with I think is that classed as one of the scimitars? But there's a lot of dudes in these areas. Some of them have guns, some of them don't. That guy has a shield. I have the benefits of knowing where they are, and I'm doing some cheesy strategy there, which is a really good thing to know about a Souls game. You can indeed attack through walls to a certain degree, and you can use this to your advantage to thin the numbers when they're grouped together, and if you funnel them towards a doorway, you can also do that as well. That is a shield enemy. One transformation attack will lower his guard and enable you to kill him. And just be aware of the lighting. Bloodborne is a game that hides very little with lighting compared to the old games. But it can still surprise you if you're not used to, what to look out for when they stand around not making too much noise. The good news is, everything here is going to drop bullets and blood vials, so you're going to be able to refill on some of the amenities that are going to keep you through the entire game. At the top of here, guy in the Gatling chair, the Gatling hunter. They're a very easy target, but if they start shooting you, it's probably bad news, so be very careful with them. And up here, there's going to be the opportunity to fight with a very rare enemy. It's an enemy that's in the chair with a rifle, but it's like an elephant rifle, and if it hits you, it has some of the biggest knockdown in the game, but it's very slow. And of course we have our buddy here, who is exactly the same as the one you fought earlier in Yharnam, and at this point you should be well versed with his animations, well versed with how to punish them, and you should be able to clean him up quite quickly. That being said, this is a spiritual soul game, and you can die in any moment. One lapse of judgment, one error, can lead to an untimely death. Like this guy, I'm going to push him off and then get shot by his buddy. That could have easily killed me, because the critical damage on the rifles on this game is completely absurd. Anybody with a gun is a massive threat just because they seem to get a wicked modifier. And I'm curious to see if that's changed now, because I've not touched Bloodborne in a while. I've been really busy with other projects and I can't wait to get back. If you're wondering where this project is, because it is quite rare in the uploads, what I'm trying to do, guys, is I'm trying to have it be an oasis in a desert of content. I have a lot of other massive projects happening right now that you're getting bits of here and there that people are following with, and then every so often I want to put this one out as a contrast to those things that are happening, and I think it's working quite well, because I have had a few people ask for it, and when people are asking for something, it tells me they're interested. Oh, this is the flamethrower huntsman's in the chair. Once again, it is an enemy that is completely fair because it has one fatal flaw, and that is its mobility. Exploit its mobility, crush it. And do not show it any sympathy, because it couldn't give a single fuck about what you think. There's no morality here, guys. This is Yharnam. This is the hunt. So respond in kind. But we picked up a hunter badge there. That is probably one of the most powerful weapons in the game, but I find it almost witheringly boring to use. I really like the sword because it's the same one as the Kirkhammer, but I do not like the heavy sword at all, even though cosmetically I think it looks great. I'm just not a fan of that weapon at all. But regardless of your feelings, it is probably the best righteous weapon on the game, because both of the transformation forms have righteous bonus against enemies that are weak to it, and of course it swings incredibly fast for a greatsword. Ludwig's greatsword, easily one of the more powerful weapons in the game, and it's something that a lot of new players are going to flock to because it's just that goddamn good. So right there, folks, I'm using healing items on a no healing run. It's sacrilegious, and I'm doing it for one reason, to survive these falls. You don't have to, but this is mandatory damage, and on mandatory damage I have no issue against using the vials, just to make sure I stay alive.
This was once a safe haven for hunters. a workshop. where hunters used blood to enhance their weapons and flesh. We don't have as many tools as we once did, but you're welcome to use whatever you find.
I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier on, but any moment where I'm going to do something that involves falling, I'm going to ignore the rules for that specific purpose. That is not to say that that's going to have any effect on any of the other moments. The only reason I have this stipulation enforced is to make the walkthrough more enjoyable for me. It has nothing to do with, trying to show that I'm good to anybody or trying to make anybody feel bad. It's just a stipulation that makes me enjoy the game a little bit more. Additionally, you might wonder why I'm coming here, because this is an optional area. I'm coming here for a very important reason. The outfit I picked up next to the grave is such a good tool early on, and it's something that I'm almost certain, if they haven't at this point, the speedrunners will be implementing in their runs, because it's the fastest way of getting echoes I know at the beginning of this game. If you get here quickly, if you rush Old Yharnam, get here, you can get access to a hell of a lot of currency very quickly. And you have to sell the outfit, basically. Selling the outfit, it sells for a ridiculous price, and it's going to enable us to mitigate some of the cost issues we might have. And we're also being introduced to a new enemy here. So this is the Beast-Possessed Soul. This is one of the only times you're going to bump into one of these creatures outside of the Chalice Dungeons. In the Chalice Dungeons, they're a little bit more common. He's a very strange guy. He's at times witheringly easy, especially this encounter, but later on when you get him in some of the Cursed Chalice Dungeons, you're going to definitely get a bit more of a respect for him when he has a whole boatload of HP. But to say the least, swarm him early on, bearing in mind he can get hyper armor and he will go through anything that doesn't have really good impact, and get rid of him, get your beast rune, and we're going to be in this lower area just here taking on some of these crows. So something to be warned of in this location. I have half my health at this point because of the falling, even though I did heal to an extent. Also, did you see that fella just then? That guy is dangerous, be careful of him. We're going to be using him later on, but at this moment in time you want nothing to do with that dude. At this juncture, I'm wanting to get the hell out of here, but I haven't fought the enemies, and there's a part of me that wants to do so just for the people who are struggling with them, should they choose to be. I recommend not even bothering. This guy has wicked range, his buddy has a torch, which makes him the most dangerous person here, and there's also a dog that patrols with them. 3 enemies at the same time, one of them is a dog. It's a recipe for death in Bloodborne. You want to be incredibly careful. Also, something happens down here that you need to be aware of. There are creatures in this game that I'm not quite sure what they are. I don't want to go into too much detail about what I think they are because it's going to spoil your interpretation of the lore or of the story. But this creature down here, according to the guide, it's called a bloodsucker. It is one of the kin. If you've noticed on the statistics, you'll have a beast modifier and a kin modifier. This is the kin. And I thought they were weak to thrusting attacks, which is true. But my weapon just doesn't have the job to do it. And you see that bullshit? Motherfucker grabbed me out of nowhere, but you can safe quit and get out of it. However, it's not guaranteed to work, so be very careful of it. However, they're incredibly damaged by fire. So if you have anything that is fire, go to it before you go to thrusting. I got my perspective completely skewed because my playthrough before I recorded this, I was using the Rita Palash, which is a rapier. It was very strong, I had the stats to govern it well, and it killed those enemies really well. Here's me thinking, oh, one of the functions of the stake driver, that's a thrusting weapon. Surely it's going to take her out, but of course, in its unupgraded form, without the scaling to boost it, it just didn't do the task, and I ended up getting grabbed. So there's a lot of lessons to learn from that situation. Additionally, the gem you just saw then is the earliest you can get an elemental gem outside of a Chalice dungeon. And I'm not too sure about the patch notes of how they've changed the gem drops, but that might be different now. But as it stood at this point, if you're doing an arcane build, that is the best gem to get early on because it is literally the only thing that's going to help you scale with the arcane. And I've done an arcane build. It's kind of fucking boring. And it's a shame because I think it could be really interesting, but you just don't have the tools available to you. You spend half the game with a torch and a flamethrower and whatever else, or the Tony Truss as I call it. Tony Truss. The Tonitrus, which is kind of a bastardised arcane weapon, but it's better than half the arcane weapons, which I think is really silly. There should have been something tailored specifically towards arcane, and the game just falls through for the people that wanted that, outside of the spells, which at the time of recording just aren't worth the bullets. But thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.